Over the 2018 Memorial Day weekend, I heard a church sermon. The entire message was from only one biblical verse. I was most pleasantly surprised to hear the reading was from the King James Version. In fact, every reading and reference was from the King James Version, and that is rare indeed. With cautious hope, I imagined I may have found a jewel. The sermon text was only one verse, Revelation chapter 14, verse 13. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. The preacher gave background information of John's isolation and education that he might be utilized by God. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write. He further preached that the saved deceased are blessed. Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. So far, so good. He read, but did not expound on the rest from their labors part of the verse, but quickly moved to the last part of the passage, and their works do follow them. And that's where he stayed for about 30 minutes of a 35-minute sermon. Now, I need to digress to share something for a moment. The speaker greatly dashed any sliver of hope that the ministry could be a good place to consider hearing again, because he kept talking about cutting the message short so that people could go home and eat, be with their families for the celebration, cook lots of food, etc. He seriously kept stressing having the allotted time shortened, and did, in fact, deviate from his normal schedule. Several times he stated he was omitting some portion of his printed program so people could leave earlier than normal in honor of Memorial Day. It was by no means the first time a minister behaved that way concerning a worldly celebration or event, but it's no less disappointing. It's sad to hear someone who professes to promote and speak from Scripture show their actual priorities to be the world. I have heard ministers do that concerning other secular times, such as Xmas, Easter, the Super Bowl, personal vacations, and even cheerleading practice for their daughters. Now, I don't mean to go far off the main subject, but it is very troubling when preachers teach by word and example that things of this world are more important than learning Scripture. Equally as disquieting is the fact that few seem to think twice about it or mind. Because of what they have been taught, it makes perfect sense to some to decrease Bible learning time while increasing world activity time. Congregations across the nation, or perhaps the world, are absent from their so-called beloved assemblies for the sake of unholy days and happenings. Of course, I am not saying there's anything wrong with remembering deceased military members, which is the general meaning behind Memorial Day, but no celebration should take precedence over Scripture. Further, the minister did not mention one single word about the military. He only continued to revere the act of visiting and eating as the need to cut the service short. Anyway, getting back to the text, which the minister craftily slaughtered, his focus was on the portion of the verse, Their works do follow them. Now, I feel in order to make that passage a Memorial Day sermon, he butchered those 5 words. He made those words say people remember what their ancestors said and did. He gave many examples of how his mother cooked and communicated. He said how he remembered the way others showed him how to do things or how to make things. He talked much about the influence of people in his life who are no longer alive. And while all of those things are fine, they have nothing at all to do with the passage. It's not just a matter of perception or interpretation either. That part of the verse, in context with the rest of the verse, is plainly not talking about the living remembering the dead. Their works do follow them is a vital part of the same promise that the dead which die in the Lord will both rest and be eternally compensated for their past earthly works. This is in line with other passages of Scripture. Look, for example, at 2 Corinthians 5, verse 10. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he hath done, whether it be good or bad. Again, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging those who have gone on or passed away, as some speak of death, but that particular passage chosen by that minister seemed to have been deliberately misused in order to fit or satisfy the need for a message in connection with the worldly occasion of Memorial Day. Did anyone notice? Did anyone even care? I know this much. The Bible, even the sacred King James Version, has been poorly represented and taught, sometimes intentionally and other times maybe unintentionally. Nonetheless, it is sad. It is really very unfortunate that by actions of so-called spiritual or religious leaders, people are taught to disrespect and dishonor Scripture. They are shown that the time some may think of as God's time is of much less importance than whatever the world says is important. They are taught to join Scripture to the world by any means necessary, even if that entails tweaking, tampering with, masking, or altogether massacring the Bible. Now, considering this, I have to think about how often I myself may have sacrificed what should be God's time or God's work in exchange for things of the world. What do I or have I done that would be a devaluing of Scripture in favor of world acceptance or worldly pleasure, possibly without even realizing it? How much of any possible failure to esteem godliness and reject world living is what I've learned from listening to or watching others whom I may have thought of as godly? This really is not a put down, but rather an observation. It's a look at our lives as those who name the name of Christ collectively as well as individually, and examining how much world thought we may have embraced. How have we possibly finangled or sidestepped words of the Bible to fit a purpose or plan of our own desires? If we want to remember something, Memorial Day or any day, it may do us well to keep in mind Romans 12, verse 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God.